welcome back to another episode with the Wild Thoughts Podcast.
Yeah, welcome back.
Yeah. So we're back with another episode, and today's episode is all about the psychology behind procrastination. Mm-hmm. I'm really excited about this one because I'm an expert on procrastination.
Honestly, as much as I'm a type A, I feel like I do also procrastinate a lot.
I think it's like a little bit. Like there's,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a spectrum of how much like procrastination. There's like extreme, and there's like,
Yeah.
the
Actually,
normal.
yes. Like, it depends, like, what I have to do. If it's something that I know is urgent, then I'm like, okay, let me start it.
Yeah.
But, like, for other stuff, I'm like,
Exactly.
delay this.
And we're gonna see why we do that.
Yes,
We're gonna talk
okay.
all about it today.
Good segue. Okay.
Yeah.
So, we're going to start off with reasons why we procrastinate. So, we actually are going to cite our source.
Yeah.
So we got it from a website called solvingprocrastination.com.
That's when you know your problems
Yeah.
will be solved.
Yeah, so it's a pretty long list, but I feel like it's good that we get through it because sometimes people just assume like people procrastinate because they're lazy.
Yeah. That's
But there's,
not
like,
the case.
There's a lot of reasons why.
And laziness is not one of them.
I mean, it is, but
it's one of them. But
it is. But it's okay. Okay, so let's get into it. So the first reason, you might be prioritizing your mood in the short term. So in this case, you delay an important task because you know it's going to stress you out. So instead of stressing about it right now, you're like, oh, I'll just deal with it later. I don't want to feel shitty right now, so I'll deal with it later. It's actually a form of mood repair. And there's 3 different types of mood repairs that you could be doing when you're trying to keep your mood like as positive as can be right now. So there's hedonistic delay, which is postponing things due to prioritization of enjoyable activities or lack of caring. So you just might not want to do it because you're like, I'd rather do
Something
more fun. So you're like, let me just do it later. There's also instant gratification. I feel like you know what that is,
Right.
but it's just preferring things that are immediately satisfying, even if this might disadvantage you in the long term. And then there's pleasure principle, which is tending to seek out pleasurable activities and avoid unpleasant ones. So bottom line, you just don't want to do it right now because you want to stay happy and positive, and you don't want to deal with something that might be stressful or like unforgiving.
Right.
The next reason is task averseness. So just not wanting to do the task because you find it unpleasant. It might be frustrating, boring, or unclear, and you're just like, I just don't want to do it, so I won't do it.
Right. I feel like sometimes, I mean, if you extend it for too long, it's not good, but it could be not healthy, like the mood repair. But I feel like if this is going to make you feel good and you want to do this just for like the moment, okay. But then eventually you're going to have to get to it, you know?
I feel like an example of task averseness is like, especially at work, if let's say you have a task that's very repetitive and you're kind of like, oh, I know how this goes. I don't want to do it. I'm going to be like drained out of my mind. But it's like something that needs to be done.
Yeah.
And you just don't do it because of that.
Yeah.
That's what task averseness is.
I feel that.
I know I have some of those
Yeah,
too.
me too. I was like, yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
The task might make you feel anxious or afraid. So maybe it's something that's challenging or like something that's out of your comfort zone. So you're scared of failing or even being criticized by others. So you might just push it away because you don't want to deal with those kind of feelings.
Yeah. Now the next one is basically feeling overwhelmed and also time management issues. So obviously when you have a lot of things to do on your to-do list and you just don't know where to start, it can make you procrastinate because you just have so many things that starting is the hardest part, if that makes sense.
That happens to me a lot.
Me too. Sometimes I just list a bunch of things. I'm like, yeah, so productive. And then I look at it, I'm like, then I'm just like making my notes prettier.
I'm like, I don't know where to start. There's just too much to do.
But once you actually start it, you realize, wait, this was much easier than thinking about starting. You know what I mean? And you're like, okay, the easiest way to get things done is to start. Sorry, I don't know why I said it like that, but the easiest way is just to do it. There's something called analysis paralysis, is when you have too many choices, so you just can't decide which one to do first. So it's a mix of like overwhelmingness and just overthinking as well. And then there's perfectionism, obviously. So because you want to make sure something is super perfect, and also I guess in terms of failure, like for you, if it's not perfect enough, then it's kind of seen as failure. So you just delay doing the task as much as possible. For example, exercising, you delay delay exercising at home because you want to eventually join a gym, even if it's better to just start right now. You want like, oh, the nice environment, the right mindset, like
perfect setting.
Exactly. But that at the end of the day is just making you procrastinate when the whole objective is just to exercise, so it doesn't matter regardless of what environment you're in. And then feeling disconnected from your future self. So thinking that your future self can deal with the problem. So for example, delaying eating healthier because you're like, kind of like, oh, you want to enjoy this now, and then later on in a week you can start eating healthy again. It's fine. Like, I mean, I do that all the time. I do that all the time.
I'm like, okay, I'll start the diet on Monday so that I can have a desserts on the
weekend.
Weekend.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, kind of we make up these excuses and we're always like, oh, we're gonna do this later, like always putting it off. It's also known as temporal self-discontinuity or temporal disjunction. Interesting.
See these big words? That means this is serious. This is a real reason.
Procrastination is a real thing.
Yeah. You might also be discounting the future outcome of the task. So let's say you're not motivated to complete a project because you know that the only value that you're going to get from it is only going to come in like 6 months.
Right.
So you're like, why should I do this now?
Right. You don't get the result like right away.
Exactly. So there's something called temporal discounting, which is reducing the perceived value of the outcomes. And there's also hyperbolic discounting, which is delaying even further because the future value is so far away. So it's also like, let's say you know that this big project that you have to do, if you complete it, you're probably going to get a promotion from it.
Yeah.
But it's only going to happen a year from now.
Right.
So you might not do the work that you need to at this moment because you're like, if I'm waiting for a promotion from a year from now, then what's the point
of doing it now? You know, it's also like, okay, let's take the example of like, oh, I don't know, you want to be healthier / lose weight because to you that's like your goal. But it's like, even with like losing weight or exercising, it's like that doesn't happen within a day. If you just because you start exercising one day. So it's like, I feel like some people are so demotivated because they're only gonna see like a physical change in a year, but actually you realize that when you do actually start doing, you feel better inside. So that's already like a physical change because you even look at yourself differently. But I think beforehand we psych ourselves out. Yeah, exactly.
You might also have low motivation. So obviously if you're not motivated, you're not going to want to do any work because especially if you don't care about the outcome, you think it's like low value and there's not a lot of positives that can come out of it, you won't want to do it. You don't want to achieve it because you're just like, what's the point?
Yeah. I think it's a lot of these things. It's like you want the instant like gratification, instant result, instant, you know, everything.
100%. Yeah. You might also feel like the expected effort to complete the task is too high. So if you already expect that it's going to take a lot of work, you won't want to exert it right now. So you might delay it to be like, oh, I'm a little tired today. Let me do this tomorrow.
Oh my God, I do that all the time.
And there's something called effort discount, which is devaluing outcomes that take more effort to achieve. So it's the same kind of thing. You know that it's going to require so much work out of you and like it's going to be draining. So you're just like, let me do this later.
Yeah, no, I've done that. Or like what happens with me is that sometimes I'll be like, okay, I have this task, I'm gonna do it during the day, but then like I end up taking longer with something else and then it's like nighttime and I'm like super tired, but that happens like so it's like no,
I know
it's not good. I mean, tiredness can be an actual like obviously can happen, but it just if it goes like you have to eventually find a time where you can't use tiredness as an excuse and just get it done. So okay, the next one is inertia. So this is the tendency to keep doing what you're already doing, which can basically lead to you procrastinating once you've already started. So for example, let's say you end up going out instead of studying, but so you're just going to end up staying out longer because, I mean, you're already out and you've already procrastinated studying. Yeah. So you're just going to prolong it because...
Yeah, I've done this.
Yeah, you know, because, you're taking... Yeah, remember when... No, karaoke studying? I was thinking of that. It's like... Well, at least you were studying.
Yeah, because I was like... At that point... Okay, so quick story time.
Yeah.
So we had gone out for a dinner because we were celebrating something to do with karate. And then after later, some people were going out to karaoke, but I had an exam the next day. But I decided, hey, let me let loose. And this is, I never do this. Like, it's so out of character.
I know,
I know.
But it's okay. It doesn't matter.
But
it's
I was
fine.
supporting a friend too. So I was like, whatever. So I went to karaoke, and then I felt so guilty that I literally pulled out my phone with my notes. And started studying at karaoke.
But then it's also like, even I do that too sometimes. Like, I'll be like,
I'm not paying attention.
Exactly. Like, I'll be like, because I want to distract myself from studying or doing whatever task I don't want to do, I'll put like the TV on.
Yeah.
But the mix of the two literally makes my head hurt sometimes. I'm like, oh my God, I can't enjoy the TV, and I can't, it's making me think that the studying is what is wrong. But in reality, it's the mix of the two, because you can't multitask when you're need to focus on one thing. You know what I mean? It just does not make sense. So basically, kind of the idea of like out of sight, out of mind. Like, if it's can't see it, it's not there, it doesn't exist. And then there is something called inaction inertia, which is basically skipping an initial opportunity to take action, which decreases the likelihood of taking action under similar future opportunities.
Because you did it once, you're going to keep doing it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, when you kind of procrastinate and you succeed, or like, you don't succeed, but you like barely like make it.
You like pass.
Yeah. So you're like, oh, this is fine. And you just keep doing it. But sometimes even when I don't do well, I do it. So I don't know if my theory really makes sense. But then there's the idea of abstract goals, which is basically the idea that goals are too unclear to basically establish a plan of action to actually start the work. So you kind of like, you don't give yourself SMART goals, like not measurable goals. You give yourselves kind of like flimsy like goals. So it's easy to kind of not work around it, but not be disciplined with it. So you kind of just go through the loops and don't take accountability for it. Yeah,
exactly.
Cognitive biases. So there's this thing called... There's a
bunch of biases.
Yeah. The first bias, which is called pessimism bias. So this can lead to procrastination if someone incorrectly assumes that their project is likely to fail, which then discourages them from actually getting started. It's more, I guess it's psych related.
Yeah.
It has to do with failure. So if you just have a pessimistic view of maybe yourself and like what you can achieve, and you already set yourself up for that mindset that you're going to fail, then you don't even really want to start. Yeah, exactly. You're not motivated to begin. But then there's also the opposite, which is called optimism bias. This is when someone incorrectly assumes that they won't run into any issues while working, which makes them wrongly comfortable to delay starting until right before the deadline.
That's rough.
Ooh,
that's
rough. Crazy.
Where you're so confident in yourself and you're like, well, shit, everything's going wrong and it's due tomorrow.
I never thought about it like that. Like, oh, I'm confident, so I'm just gonna like do it. But it could also go into the fact that like, oh, you know what, like what I just said, like because you've gotten away with, because maybe sometimes you procrastinate and you got like a 90.
Exactly.
Let's say, or like you did an A or super well, so you're like, oh, I did it last time. It was fine. I finished it in an hour. Like, I'm good, you know? And within this, there's something called the planning fallacy, which is when people, what we just said, people underestimate how long it will take to complete a future task, despite knowing that similar past tasks took longer to complete than expected. Okay, so it's the fact that you have experienced the fact that tasks have taken longer, but you just kind of like ignore it.
Yeah, maybe like you feel like, oh, I've done this in the past, so maybe I could do it quicker
this time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then we have the bandwagon effect. So basically, this is when you're more likely to procrastinate if you see someone else doing, your peers doing it, because you're like, oh, they did it.
Yeah,
I can do that. Like comparison.
School.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if you're hanging out and you're like, shit, I know I have a test, but they don't.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I did this a lot in college where I'm like, oh, I don't need to study anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Then we have moral self-licensing. So it's when you basically recently acted in a way that is perceived as positive. So you did something like well or good. For example, when you feel like comfortable delaying going to the gym because you already followed your diet properly. So you did like one part of the task. So you're like,
you did step 1 out of 10 and you're like,
I did that. I don't need to like go to the gym, you know? So you kind of easy on yourself. I mean, you can be proud of yourself for taking the first step, but doesn't mean you like
obviously
delay.
these examples, like, it's not like a one-time thing. It's
Yeah,
like if
exactly.
you're repeatedly doing this behavior.
Right, exactly. Like, don't feel bad because
Yeah.
like that we're saying this example, but it's a very generalized thing. Then there's projection bias. This is also associated with empathy gap. This is if someone feels motivated right before they fall asleep and are sure they'll also feel as motivated tomorrow, which causes them to fail to adequately prepare for their upcoming procrastination. I do this all the time.
Yeah?
It's like I get moments of like, oh my God, I'm gonna do this. Like, I got this. But then I'm like, I don't know if, I think this is what it's saying. But then I'm like sleepy or tired. I'm like, okay, tomorrow morning, I'm gonna wake up early. I'm gonna have the same type of energy. But it just, circumstances are not gonna be the same like in the morning. Because you have to like get up in the morning. You have to
right
like
away
do a
or
bunch of
it's not
stuff.
happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, then you might just have some problematic traits. The way they phrase this is pretty funny, but it's basically like you just might have a trait that like causes you to procrastinate
more.
So exactly where, like we were saying before, if you're lazy, like obviously you're not going to want to do something.
Yeah,
so you're going to procrastinate. You might be impulsive, distracted, impatient. You might have low perseverance or low confidence, and like all of those combined, you won't want to do anything. You're just like, I just want to have fun. I want to watch TV. I want to relax. Like that's your vibe.
Yeah.
But you can't do that all the time.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like, that's okay, but you just won't accomplish your task if you're always doing that.
Exactly. You might also be in a problematic environment. So if you're already in an environment that's kind of distracting to you, obviously you won't have the right mindset to like do the task at hand. So you'll push it to until you're like somewhere more motivating. So let's say you're at home and like, especially like working from home. I work from home on Fridays and both my parents are home. And I'm like, I can't do anything. I hear them talking, I hear them cleaning, I hear them vacuuming, like I hear everything. So then I go out because I start to like get like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
like,
same.
I get distracted very easily. So like,
you want to peek into like, oh, what are you cooking?
Exactly. It's like, oh, my mom's cooking something. What are you cooking?
Yeah, exactly. Let me
and
help you.
It's like 2 p.m. Like I'm not done my work day, but yeah, that's a real reason. And then lastly, there might be underlying behaviors, desires, and conditions. So the first one is self-sabotage. So you might just procrastinate because you're like, have this pull to hinder your own success or well-being. So for example, if you just don't think you deserve the outcome.
Right. It can be related to like confidence.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're self-sabotaging yourself by not doing it. There's also sensation seeking. So it's when you procrastinate because you want to add a challenge or excitement to the task, especially by working on them under intense time pressure before an upcoming deadline. So
I feel like I've done this.
Yeah, you might find a task like super boring. So you're like, you know what? Let me put some pressure on myself. I'll do it at the last minute just so I like feel hyped to do it.
Yeah. There's so many reasons. How do you know why you do it? Like,
I mean, I think it changes.
It's a mix of things.
It
depends on circumstance.
There's also seeking distraction. So when you procrastinate to give yourself a manageable problem that you can focus on instead of more threatening issues in your life, you might procrastinate in order to focus on the procrastination and focus on like, that's going to be my problem rather than other stuff that's happening in your life.
Because you can manage the procrastination compared to like,
it's kind of under your control. Yeah. There's also rebellion. So you might procrastinate just to rebel and get revenge for something. For example, against an authority figure that you might be resenting. So like, could be a parent that's like putting a lot of pressure on you to like do well in school, let's say. And then you're like, hey, fuck that.
Yeah. Or like, you know, when your parents like tell you to do something and because they tell you don't want to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Like
always.
that.
I was like, I was already going to do it, but now I don't want to do it.
Exactly. Just because I already had it in my mind because you reminded me 10,000 times.
Exactly.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah, 100%. And then obviously there's conditions like ADHD or depression. Those are bigger, not issues, but bigger things that you're dealing with. So you're obviously not going to do like tasks very quickly.
Right.
So now let's get into how psychology is tied to procrastination. So we kind of already mentioned some things like, for example, low self-confidence, anxiety, if you have lack of structure. Those are kind of like, I think the more not reasonable, but the more prominent.
It's more like the
reasons.
mental health issues that can get in the way with procrastination, maybe?
Yeah, but it's also like the more well-known reasons.
Oh,
That's what I'm
right.
trying to
Yes,
say.
yes. Sorry, yeah.
But there's also something called rumination, which is a form of lingering cognition that focuses on negative content, generally past and present, and results in emotional distress.
When you're lingering on one moment that happened that is related to something negative,
yes.
so you can't
Move on.
get
from it.
past from it, so you can do tasks like for example, if you picture something in your head, like a situation that happened and you, like, I don't know, I'm exaggerating, but like you play it over and over and it's like bothering you and you just, I think,
just
like a lingering moment, right?
Not related to the task, just a lingering thought.
Yeah, exactly. Like
It's basically like continuously worrying about an upcoming exam.
oh,
You're
okay, never mind, I was off.
No, I think it's kind of right, but it's more about like you're procrastinating, like studying for the test because you're like, I don't know the subject, I'm gonna do so bad on it, blah blah blah, like stuff like that. There's also research that suggests that procrastination is a problem of emotion regulation and not time management. So that's why it's related to psychology, guys.
Yeah.
Okay? That's all we have to say there. Like literally all the reasons that we've listed, it's a lot of like mental stuff and like emotional feelings about things, and that's why you react in a certain way and don't do the task.
Yeah, it's like, for example, like fear of failure, fear of, or perfection. It's all like little things that are related.
Yeah, and it's all like under your own control. You know what I mean? It's like you causing that, but like you're putting it on yourself, basically.
Yeah,
It's not like
exactly.
other people doing it unless you're in the distracted environment.
Yeah. But I feel like it's like procrastination is literally a form of protection. I feel like it's like if you begin a task, you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable.
Oh,
Deep.
that is deep. Okay, we twisted that. Sometimes procrastination can even mask itself as another mental health issue, so you don't actually realize that you're procrastinating. So you might be overeating and you don't know why. You might think like maybe you have a binging problem or like you're stressed out, but you might be eating because you're trying to avoid doing a task. So you might keep going to the kitchen, opening your fridge, looking at stuff because you just don't want to do what you need to do.
Yeah, exactly. And what I find interesting is that they say that this can be a way of regulating the discomfort to whether it's like fear of doing a task, fear of failure, or whatever.
Yeah.
I literally do this all the time.
Okay,
so
same.
it's so weird.
And I do this when I'm bored too, but it's like I have stuff to do.
I did this yesterday.
Am I actually bored? Yeah.
I was watching, like, I was like, oh, I have so many things to do, but I need like 5 minutes just to rest.
Yeah.
I opened a bag of chips and I was just like eating them.
do that.
And I was full and I was like, and now I'm tired and I can't do
stop.
my shit. Like, it's like, you know, the effect that after you eat, you're gonna feel tired. Then you're gonna be like, that's another excuse from...
Yeah, 100%.
That's crazy. Okay, finally. So we're gonna end with basically how to fight the urge to procrastinate. Obviously, it can be difficult, but we're gonna give you some tips to kind of unblock this and move forward. There's some tips for people with kind of mental roadblocks, so whether it can be like a mental health issue, etc. So I think the first thing is, I mean, you always have to like acknowledge and have like self-awareness. So acknowledging the cause. So many causes are associated with procrastination can be related to mental health, like ADHD, depression, anxiety. These are some of the most challenging ones, but there are obviously other ones. So I think this is the first step for people with those mental health issues. And then with people without mental roadblocks, so people that don't necessarily deal with these mental health issues, first you have to make the choice to want to stop the habit. So you have to be like, okay, I'm aware of this and I don't want to do it anymore. And then a system that really works is basically rewarding yourself when you do well. But you have to structure your reward system in the proper way.
Yeah,
like
you have to be stern.
Yeah, like there are conditions to it where you can't just like, okay, I read like one page of my book. Let me watch like 3 hours of TV now. Like, no, that's not.
It's called balance.
Exactly. And also you shouldn't drag yourself down with like, oh, I should have done this. I could have done this. It's only going to make your habit worse. And the next step step is getting a calendar and writing down the due dates for assignments and any other important tasks or events that you have. And then break down your bigger tasks into smaller tasks so they're more manageable, they're easier to picture, and they don't feel like overwhelming. So you can set due dates for these smaller tasks and then reward yourself each time you complete the smaller task. So you get many rewards. And it's also, like I said, it's important to pick the right reward for you and the right structure and system. So it doesn't have to be something big, but it's something that brings you, like, whether it's happiness, peace, excitement, like whether it's like watching like your favorite show, like an episode of your favorite show, but don't like binge the whole like season, you know?
You know what I did today actually to reward myself?
Yeah.
So I was very unmotivated today because it's a Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's the explanation. And I did like the most important task that I had to do. And then it was lunchtime. And I'm like, you know what?
You got so much done.
I got so
before
much.
lunch.
I got stuff done.
Yeah.
I still had other work to do. But I
Yeah.
was like, it's lunch. I'm going to take my full lunch.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read my book. Because
Yes,
I
you
was
go,
so
sis.
freaking hyped about reading this book.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Wait. Let me... This book is literally a fanfic. Like, I'm reading it.
The
I'm
one
like,
where, I'm talking about.
it's called The Fine Print. It's supposed to be spicy. I'm not I think I literally stopped right before the spicy part because like
I'm
stuff
excited
started
for
happening.
you.
Anyways, tangent there.
Oh my
but yeah,
God,
I
that sounds
rewarded
good.
myself and I read the book. I read like 40 pages just because I was like very into it. And I'm like, I'm de-stressing until I have to continue my day.
Do you not take your full lunch usually? Depends
No,
on
I
what you have to
do,
do.
but I feel like
Now you really like took your time. You didn't rush yourself.
yeah, like I'll usually like, okay, I have to make
10
my
minutes,
lunch.
yeah.
Like, I have to make my lunch. It takes 20 minutes to do that.
Right,
And
so
then
you
I
only have,
finally
like,
sit
a
down.
bit.
I have to find the show that I want to watch. And then
I
like
feel you.
after I have to peas.
Yeah,
like,
it takes up,
I only
like, half-
actually take like a 30-minute lunch if I'm
Yeah.
looking at it like with relaxation time.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I
why
mean?
sometimes when you're at home, it's like, shit, my lunch break is shorter because
I
I
know.
didn't prepare all my stuff
Exactly,
before
yeah.
like I would. Yeah, I was thinking about that. But anyway, so
Tangent.
yeah. So it's also important, like I said, to pick the right reward. We said anything that brings you joy, happiness, peace. Like Kathy read her book, so that brought her some peace and happiness and excitement and spice.
And spice.
Yeah, and spice.
I
And
was like giddy reading this book, guys. I'm not even kidding.
she was like, oh
You
shit, I
read
gotta
it.
go back
I was
to
like,
work.
okay.
And she's like sweating. I'm dead. No, now I'm intrigued. I need to first finish like the first like
Get it on your Kobo. What is it called? Kindle.
Kobo. Oh shit. No, Kobos are good too.
Kobos are old.
I was like, Kobo.
My mom.
No, Kobos are good.
Oh my God,
They're really good.
sweating.
Actually.
Okay.
I'm dead. Okay. And then it should be something you have not overdone. For example, if you're always watching YouTube videos, then rewarding yourself with a YouTube video won't really make a big impact. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't be something you just like
Yeah, I didn't even think about
continuously
that.
do anyways because it doesn't feel like a reward. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So it has to be
Feels like another
something.
day.
Yeah, it has to be something a little bit special or you haven't had the chance to really do, or maybe you've been pushing off because you're like, oh, I don't deserve to do this right now, you know? But like have a healthy balance, obviously. And like we mentioned, the reward should match the task. So if you read 3 pages of your textbook, don't go watch like 3 hours of TV. It's not 1 hour per page. That doesn't make any sense. It has to be proportional, kind of, you know? If not, it's going to slow you down rather than actually help you. So the system will not work. Another point is basically don't deprive yourself either of necessities like socializing. Like don't be like, okay, I didn't finish everything I had to do. I can't go out this whole week with nobody. I can't, like, no. Those are like basic human needs.
Yeah, and sometimes you might need the break.
Exactly.
You just have to judge like how much work you actually accomplish.
Yeah, have a good judgment because at the end of the day, if you're putting yourself in unhealthy environments, I mean, that's gonna make it worse. You're not gonna be able to work properly either, you know? Some other just general tips, just prioritize. So like we said, sometimes you're going to have long to-do lists, but just see what you have to get done this day and then break them down. Like Kathy said, do the hardest task maybe first. And then I like this method. It's called the Pomodoro method. It's basically you do 25-minute periods of work, but you take 5-minute breaks between each period. And then at the end of the 4 25-minute periods, you take a longer break, which is like 30 minutes. So you feel rewarded. You feel like, okay, I wasn't like draining myself and studying for a straight 2 hours. You know, it's really like manageable. Oh, this is really good. I need to listen to this, but tackle tasks as soon as they rise. So instead of letting them, like sometimes it's not doable, but when you can.
Yeah.
Instead of letting, because that's when you have motivation to do it. But if you let it rot, like wait 3 weeks, you're gonna be like, oh, I can wait another
100%.
week. I didn't do it for 3 weeks. You know?
But I will say on the flip side,
Yeah.
sometimes when I get a task to do, like randomly,
Yeah.
I'll do it right away and I forget what I'm doing. And
Other
it might
tasks.
be a more important
Yeah,
task and I don't know
exactly.
because I'm like, oh, I got this. I need to do this.
Yeah, like that's the thing. You have to mix the prioritization with that and like have judgment, right? Just don't do that for every task, but if it's something that is equally important or you finished your other task, don't like be like, wait, just get it out of the way if you can. Minimize distractions. So if you're working on something important, try not to watch TV at the same time.
Yeah.
Try not to be on your phone every
Use
2
that
minutes.
do not disturb.
Yeah, exactly. There's like functions now. You can make it like super specific. What?
I did a morning routine one.
Oh!
And I activated from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m.
And then what did you like? You see, I don't use all these like
because
functions.
I saw someone do it on a TikTok and I was like, wait, that's super cute.
And what can you do?
So I set it up so that I don't get any notifications unless it's from my mom and my brother, because sometimes I carpool with my brother.
Right.
Or if my mom texts me, like I need to answer.
And your dad, it's like, who cares?
My dad, that's
I'm kidding.
My dad's
I'm kidding.
asleep in the
I'm
morning.
kidding.
But yeah, so I put it just for that.
Yeah.
So like in the morning, like I'm still using my phone sometimes, like
That's smart.
but I feel like I'm using it less because I'm not getting notifications.
Yeah,
because everything's
exactly.
snoozed.
Because for me, you see, I need to do that. I either have it on like completely do not disturb, but now lately I haven't been doing the do not disturb at all. I just keep it on.
Even
all
when I
the
go to
time.
bed, I put it on sleep.
Yeah.
Because I think a sleep one is like automatic that you can put. So I put it on sleep so I don't get anything. Honestly, though, this thing is kind of like weird. Because I don't know what other word to use. Because like, what if someone's in an emergency and your phone's on do not disturb?
That's what I'm saying. That freaks me out. So like, let's say my mom or my dad,
Yeah.
like no one's at home or my mom's at work. I'm like, oh no. Or I'm like, oh, they'll call my dad if they need anything. Like it's fine. There's other people.
I'm like, I still put it on do not disturb, but I have
Yeah.
that thought that I'm like, what if there's an emergency? Like I won't get notified.
Exactly.
That's kind of weird.
She said it's weird. Well, you can like adjust it.
Yeah,
like,
you can do custom. That's what I'm
saying.
saying.
Like
in
when
the
your
mornings
mom's
I have,
home, like obviously you're fine. Like you don't need.
But you can also like keep it for like if you do, or if you're like an emergency contact for someone, you can only have their notifications show up. You know what I mean? You can customize it.
Okay, so then you're fine. You can do that.
Customize it though.
Okay, well, if it's driving you, if it's not letting you sleep at night, I suggest.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is very cool. I'm just lazy to do that. I'm procrastinating, like fixing it. It's fine. It's not. And then I think our last point is always therapy and professional help, because obviously there can be underlying causes. You can be dealing with something you're not even aware of. So if you feel like it's frustrating, professionals can give you help with procrastination, like how to break things down. So definitely go see someone if you feel like it's not manageable.
Yeah, someone.
Hey, we're running.
All right, guys. So we hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, please subscribe to our channel, leave a comment, give us a like. You know the drill. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Wild Thoughts Pod, and follow us individually. Everything's linked down below. Let us know if you guys like these deep dives into like psychology and like stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like I find it super interesting when we get to research it. So hopefully you find it interesting to listen to.
We're obviously not professionals, but it's nice to discuss.
Exactly.
And like give our opinions.
And sometimes it makes me feel like I'm back in school. I'm like, oh, I have to do research.
Exactly. It's like, okay, I know what this means.
So that's about it. So we hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.